apparently Elon's gonna be putting in, like, AI and SpaceX and stuff into space, and he's planning on basically taking over the sky highway. Apparently there's not a lot of, low I can't remember the word they used for it, but essentially, if he can colonize not Mars, although that obviously that's long-term goal, but even just take over basically the super highway in the sky, he can impact that. I don't know if you know too much about it, but he's combining that with AI. And then the other thing too is, what are your thoughts just in general when, like, when companies are bigger than governments? Because one of the things we're seeing with, like, SpaceX and this growth of AI and this new tech is, I feel concerns about our democracy or our democratic republic in the United States kind of eroding and creating that sort of a situation where the people don't really have a say. I mean, already things are just like crazy centralized in ways that anti-monopoly bills were designed to stop, but they've just found loopholes that have functional monopolies. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about that. That's it.
Yeah. So, AI in space and Mars are not, Mars is so much farther away from the place that they would put AI in space. And the whole point of that is just to apparently is just to make sure that because apparently is according to them at least it's going to be the main one of the main limitations of AI is energy and cooling, right? So if you put the processing of AI in space, you have a lot more access to solar energy. The energy could then be distributed into space for cooling, so you don't have to worry about cooling as much as you have to worry about it in on Earth. That's the point of putting it in space. Some people have found a lot of problems with that from a
I
scientific
do
perspective.
I do remember
Yeah,
they were talking about the heating and cooling was the concern. There's also not as much space in that area of space that you can colonize. So there's
I mean you're
limitations, just
not
like number of,
colonizing; it's like empty
well,
space.
I know I'm using the word colonize liberally. I don't mean it in a
I
literal.
mean, there's nobody living there. Last time I checked, so there's nobody to colonize, right?
Okay. Take
Yeah.
over, I don't know, build, like, if it's the analogy that I heard was that it's kinda like the railroads where the first person who gets there basically is going to control the rules of that
Um,
infrastructure.
Can I say
yeah, that's
something
gonna be
about it?
I would love that.
Yeah, okay. I don't think you understand how
sure.
massive space is. Like to the point that just between the distance of the moon and Earth, you can fit the entire solar system, like planets next to each other.
No, I
Like there's
understand
plenty of
the
space.
no, no, I understand there's plenty of space in space, but there's technology. Okay, I'm gonna actually just do research on this so I can explain what I'm
It's
talking
okay.
about
It's okay.
better.
I
Yeah.
think we're getting off topic, anyways. Regarding companies and governments, companies getting bigger than governments. Honestly, I'm more worried about governments getting too big than companies getting too big. And I do think big companies, are a good check on governments. I do believe that I think companies getting too big is not a monopoly because as long as they're not working with each other, a lot of people think that monopoly is just mean big companies are not monopoly. As
I
long as
I I
let
don't
me
think
let
big
me let
company.
me
Okay,
actually
okay.
make. I know. I didn't say you, but let me finish my point. I'm just saying that there's no violation of anti-monopoly laws for companies to get as big as possible. Companies getting big means that they're producing something useful. That's how companies get big, right? So I'm against monopoly. I think it's good for companies to maintain anti-monopoly laws, but if giant companies are growing but they're competing with each other while they're growing, well then let them grow as long as they're competing with each other, right?
Okay, but what about when they
um
don't have competition? Like, Amazon functionally has no competition. Half of the
Am-
country is dependent on them.
Amazon
But
has
think
no
about
Amazon has no competition on what product? On what product and what service that they have no
delivery,
competition on?
like, functionally. I mean, everybody uses them.
Then
I'll add
everybody uses. No, that's not true. Just because the many people use them because they prefer their service, but There are other options for delivery. There are many other options for delivery, but people use them because they prefer their service. You can't punish companies for providing better services, right? You
I'm
don't want
not
to punish
saying
them.
punish them.
If a company is managing to get a big section of the market share because their service or their product is superior, the government getting involved and saying no to that is basically punishing serving your customers better than other people. We don't want to do that, right? We want to basically reward companies for having a superior product or service. And again, companies growing is a good thing because how do companies grow? Companies grow, if a company is growing, they only grow by providing a service or a product better than other companies. That's how you grow. That's how economies grow. When you're like the reason why America is a superpower is because it has the biggest companies. Like that's something that Americans are proud of. Look at Europe; it doesn't have a single company as large of American companies.
No, no,
That is something that America.
I
But
am, but
let me actually like you let me actually make my points, and then maybe you could get in.
okay,
Is that
okay,
okay?
okay. Yeah, I'll shut up for a second.
Yeah. Okay. So the main sources of power that we have to look at, right, are governments, companies, and individuals. So this is what we have to be mindful of, right? The centralization of power is something that we should be worried about. The power itself should not be something that we're worried about. Power, we need power. We need some centralization of power. So we have to come up with a balance of how much centralization of power that we want, right? So individuals themselves don't have much leverage because they're just individuals. But individuals usually get to have leverage as individuals through companies or governments. So companies are supposed to be a representative of individuals, and individuals get to represent themselves through these companies by their purchasing power. They get their purchasing power by exchanging their labor for that purchasing power, or so you give your labor. So the more, so in the market, it's not very democratic. The more you give, the more purchasing power you have, and the companies will be serving you, the companies, through their products and services. The companies are both a source of you gaining that leveraging power because you give your labor to them to get that economic agency as a leverage of power. And then those same companies are also a place where you use your economic agency that you got from the companies to then have an influence, have an impact by buying the product and services that makes your life better, right? So that is a non-democratic system. The more you give, the more you could take from it. But the companies are supposed to be a representative of our a source and also a destination of our economic agency. But then we have the government. The government is supposed to be an equalizing force where your wallet becomes less influential, not completely irrelevant, but less influential. And just by being a citizen, your government gets to act on your behalf. And with your vote, you have some political agency. Then, with the companies as a representation of your economic agency, the government is supposed to be a representative of your political agency. So, as in, if we people who believe in classical liberal values, we care about the individual. We want the companies to grow, but we want the government to become powerful, but we want in both cases the economic agency, the economic power of companies to not be centralized. So that's why we're against monopoly, and also the political power of our government, we don't want it to be centralized as well. That's why we believe in Montesquieu's three branches of government, basically checks and balances and all of that stuff, right? So when it comes to companies, we want the companies to grow, but the best way to make sure that the power of the companies do not become too centralized is by making sure that they are competing against each other. So if one company is becoming so big, it's also competing against other big companies. And this is why we also believe in global trade, because even if you manage to become a huge big player in your own country, because the goal of these companies is to basically compete on a global scale, they have to worry about other companies from China and allowing other companies to come into your country and compete with the companies in your own country keeps your companies on their toes as well, because even if you have dominated in your own country, you have to worry about a Chinese manufacturer coming into your country and competing with your cars that you're making or whatever. So this is why lower tariffs and free trade among different countries basically is a good way to basically stop monopolies, because you're constantly competing with other companies. So every time I say free trade, she's like, "Boo!" Okay, it's okay. It's okay though. It's okay. We love you. We love you. No, keep doing it. What was I saying? Oh yeah. When it comes to so with governments, we try to avoid centralization of power. With America has done a very good job to try to reduce the centralization of power. So you could come up with a structure of government that avoids that. But also the big companies also avoid centralization of power in the government. You know how? Because when your companies are growing, that's because your people are getting richer. So here's when you have here's when you have democracy. Democracy is a result of the power of the people. Democracy is not just something that we just wish for and it happens because we believe it in as a value. Democracy is the deterministic result of the balance of the people's power increasing relative to their government, so they have leverage over their government, and that leverage is economic leverage. So if you actually track when countries become democracy, it's usually after the relative wealth of people becomes high compared to the relative economic power of their government. Democracy is a natural result of the people getting richer on average relative to the economic power of their government. So if allowing when companies get richer, that's individuals getting richer, because that's your income, that's your 401k, that's your pension, that's your purchasing power that is getting bigger. So, and the companies growing means that this main source of the government's revenue is tax income, because people are getting richer, they're trading more, and they have to pay tax more, and that makes the government answerable to the people. And that's why it's actually a good check on government, the power of the government, for people to keep getting richer and richer and your companies to get bigger and bigger. Because even if the government doesn't want to serve the people because all of a sudden the power has become too centralized, and the government has the idea that, oh, maybe I could basically become dictatorial and not serve my people, if you have really giant companies in your country, then what happens is that it's in the best financial interest of these giant companies for everything to continue being the benefit of the people, because these people are their customers and their workers. So you could actually force your governments to become more democratic, because democracy is good for business. So big companies is a good check on government as well. So this is why I'm not against big companies. I'm against monopoly, but I'm not against big companies. And in fact, I want my companies in my country to be a force to be reckoned with, and my governments to be afraid of the private sector in my society. But okay, yeah, thank you, Samantha.
Okay.
But yeah, Shauna, sorry.
I didn't realize it was gonna open a can of almond talk, but, I have a couple points about that, though. What about during there's a little bit of a problem with this, which is, like, during the kind of high-level censorship years where you couldn't say literally anything until Elon, thank God, freed us. So, yes, sometimes a man, even a man that I don't necessarily like, can do a good thing, you know? Heroes aren't perfect, okay? But, he during that high censorship year, there was a concerted effort by both the big tech companies and by the government to censor Twitter, and this is still going on in England and the UK. So, it I don't think that's necessarily the case, because all it takes is for a group of Puritans to develop a, like, idea
That
and
let me just quickly answer this, because the list is very long and my time is shorter usually than today.
Oh,
But
okay, okay, okay.
let me just say that actually proves my point, because when it comes to the private sector, at some point, if people want a certain product and it's not there, somebody's going to come offer it. And X came and offered it.
Okay.
It
Um,
will only take that long. Yeah. But yeah, let's
okay.
go. Let's go to
Okay,
it.
and then the
Yeah.
other point is, what about
Let-
I guess I disagree with you with
no,
the idea that individuals
let's go.
always debate individuals. We'll talk about this later, though.
Yeah, let's talk about this later.
Okay, next we have Susanna.
I was gonna ask you about Golshifte Farahani, but you basically already were talking about all of that. Shaheen Najafi had an epic video about it on his channel today. And the English to Persian subtitles are like surprisingly good. And that man is so on point. In other news, I've started to try to put together like the PDF of information for survivors of torture in Persian. Like getting a translation in Google Gemini like is actually very easy and reliable. My problem is that I can't read Persian, so I can't format the PDF. So if there's anyone who wants to help me, you can DM me here on
Yeah, actually,
school.
Gemini does that as well. Tell it to format the PDF.
I don't know, but I can't tell if it's right. Read it,
Me.
so I don't know if it's any good.
Right.
Oh, sorry, my
Okay.
husband's calling me. Okay, but I'll be here.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Okay, Sapir.
Okay. Continuing Susanna point with the PDF, I wanted to offer to make a drive or something that we can put all the videos, picture, witnesses, everything that we can gather. This is a thing that we personally already also did in October 7th because I feel like there's so many things that are circulating in the internet, some of them from other conflicts, and then people can use it to be like, oh, this is from another country, and what's happening in Iran is not real. So I want to create a driver that we can just put all the verified imagery from Iran. So one, it can help all of us and anyone here that wants to post things, and two, it's also something that we can pass to media on obviously the consent of the person that adds it. So that's one thing that I would like to do, and I will put a link to a drive folder in the end of this conversation. Other than that, I wanted to see your opinion about what happened today with the 15 crew members that were kidnapped by the regime. And do you think there will be any international response soon? Because we know that from the US, they sent another naval unit, but it's obvious at this point that both the US and Israel will not act till the plan is pretty much perfect.
Yeah. By the way, do we still, for people who might just came here, the Islamic Republic decided to attack a couple of oil tankers right before the negotiations. They took a bunch of oil tankers and kidnapped all the crew members. Do we know the nationality of the crew members or not yet? Sapir, do we know?
I personally couldn't find it, but the moment there will be an update, I can let you know.
This is so unreal because to me, all the people who wanted to suggest that there's no point negotiating with the Islamic Republic, do they need to say anything anymore? I mean, this is what they're doing right before the negotiations, right? It's like they're daring Trump to attack, right? Again, I mentioned to Jeffrey at the beginning of the stream that maybe they want the attack to start earlier because they think that the attack is inevitable, and just allowing the United States and Israel to prepare longer doesn't make any sense, and it's in their best interest that if it's going to happen anyway, to make it happen sooner. But Sapir, so what was your specific question regarding all
Do
of
you
this?
think if any other countries would say something about it, since it only happened today, we didn't really see any comments
Yeah.
from anywhere else
Well, I was asking you about the nationality of the people involved. Yeah, yeah. So most countries don't have the balls to actually defend
to
their
talk about
citizens
it.
as much
Yeah.
as Israel and United States. These are the two main countries that I've always seen that go do everything they need to do to basically bring their citizens home wherever they are. So, given that we've seen European countries not to do much when the Islamic Republic kidnaps their citizens, I wonder if they're going to do much when it's not even their citizen. They have such a
Mhm.
bad record when it comes to actually speaking out for bringing their own citizens home, let alone for citizens of other countries.
The
I
reason that
Yeah.
I thought maybe there would be something is because of the recent few countries that started to be like, okay, now we designate the IRGC as not legitimate in a terror.
I mean, the European countries didn't declare IRGC as a terrorist group even when the IRGC was busy kidnapping their citizens, right?
Yeah.
So, but which countries are you talking about? Because now the European countries have already declared IRGC as a terrorist group.
That's
Which
what been happening recently. That is so like I thought maybe. Never mind. Anyways, I am gonna make the drive real quick. I'm gonna post it here in the chat. If any of you have any messages that you got, any videos, any pictures you have saved that you know for a fact that from Iran, because I've already seen multiple things circulating from other conflicts, then put it there.
I just want to mention that if you're Israeli or American, you have to consider yourself very lucky that you have governments that are disinterested in protecting you, because not that many governments are like that.
In Israel, we even have an app installed that is basically telling us throughout the entire world. He picks up a location, and if there's something that might be in danger or a pro-Palestinian protest that is around, it alerts us to not go to those streets and those specific cities in lifetime, and gets updates from the government when we're abroad.
Which app you're talking about?
It's an app for Israeli. Let me look how it's called again. Yeah, it's called the Situation Room, and it's basically I can be like that.
10 seconds.
Yeah, basically the Situation Room. It's in Hebrew, but it's like basically
Okay.
alerts thing for Jews to get away from specific areas.
All right. Thank you. All right.
Okay, we have 19 minutes. Cat lady? Yeah, kitty, 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 kitty. Samantha?
Short.
Okay, I was gonna say that when Arma was talking about how the anti-Pahlavi people are trying to re like use the word I'm trying to think. How do you what is the term? Like rebranding the word? Yeah, like trying to
Repurpose.
yeah. It kind of reminded me of the pro-Pahlavi people or anti-Israel people, the way they'll use words like the what's it called? Equal they'll use the term equal rights to mean Israel
Oh,
basically yeah, like the equal rights as in Israel needs to give all Arabs who are not citizens of Israel the same rights as Israeli citizens and therefore take down the wall in between Israel and the Arabs who are not Israeli citizens and want to go kill the Israeli citizens. Like
right.
that
So
shit. And
so you're saying
the justice where their definition of justice is shit that's probably against the Geneva Convention. And just
right. So
yeah,
you're saying that the lack of understanding of political terms were in among the anti-Pahlavi people when they use democracy and they don't understand the meaning of the word and they confuse it with, liberalism, or also they don't understand that democracy is something that comes after revolution and they're
Mhm.
trying to misuse it as a way to attack Reza Pahlavi. That reminds you of how equal rights is misused among anti-Israelis to
Yep,
attack Israel. Right. Okay.
exactly.
And yeah, exactly. And the misunderstanding there is equal rights are supposed to be for your citizens, right? And this is something
Yeah.
that Piers Morgan even doesn't understand. Piers Morgan, like in his show, like, why don't you, aren't you for equal rights between Israelis and Palestinians? I'm like, no, no, we're not. In the same way that we're not for equal rights between Americans and Canadians, Canadians should have equal rights among Canadians, and Americans should have equal rights among Americans. Americans should not have equal rights to Canadians, because imagine if an American comes and like, this is not justice. Why are Canadians not giving me free healthcare?
Mhm.
Like,
Yep.
why are they only giving free healthcare to Canadians? Why are they not giving it to me as an American? Well,
Mhm.
because you're not Canadian. They give the equal rights are for the equal rights under Canadian laws are for their citizens.
Mhm.
You can't expect any government to give the rights that they give to their citizens to people who are not citizens of their country. We don't ask this from anybody. So it's retarded for us to ask Israelis to
Mm.
basically give their rights to their citizens to people who are their enemies. What the hell?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Also, I don't know how much you wanna just keep the subject on our own or if I could say something briefly about international trade, but
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
okay. Just argument against international trade or
Sure.
just, like, what if, let's say, we have a country that is using some very serious exploitation that is practically working people to death and then therefore is able to mass produce something relatively cheaply because they're just totally exploiting working people to absolute fucking death to mass produce some item very cheaply. And therefore, because they're doing this, they can produce that item far more cheaply than any country that's following any humane guidelines whatsoever. Should we really
But
be, like, engaging in that and, like, buying this mass-produced product that's produced cheaply through exploitation? Or should we maybe, as a country, at certain points say, "Fuck it, no, we will not buy this item produced in this country."
so it depends. Just short answer. When you say exploitation, are you suggesting that they are is forced labor? Meaning
Yeah,
that these workers, hold on, let me give you the two options, right? Like, do they have the option not to work? Is it slavery basically? Or
yes,
is
in
it
my
that
scenario, it is
because,
basically
oh
slavery.
my God, hold on, what?
Yes, in my scenario, I'm going to say it's basically slavery, so let's
So,
go with that.
so what happens to them if they don't work?
Let's say we have a dictatorship country that will
Yeah.
kill you if you're
So,
not, like, engaged in, like, this forced labor thing where you're working, like, 18-hour days, 365 days a week, or they'll kill you.
okay, if they kill you, then yeah, I would be in favor of not buying from them. Right? But if a scenario is like, oh, it's forced labor because if they don't work, they will go hungry. Well, then by not buying from them, you're making them go hungry, right? So if the cost of labor in that country is very, very, very low, and that's why they're getting paid very low, like they're basically are getting paid very low amounts for their, for their labor, then you should buy from them. Because if you don't, then the alternative is that they go hungry. If they don't work, if it's forced labor, it's not like that, Jewish Samantha. Usually it's not like, other than maybe the Uyghurs in China, most of the time when people are talking about exploitation, you're actually putting those people in worse conditions if you don't buy from them, because you decided that, oh, they're not getting paid enough. So you basically decided that maybe let's bring about a situation where they're not getting paid at all. Do you
Mhm,
understand? Yeah. So most of the time when people are talking about exploitation, they're not getting paid enough or their
mhm,
working conditions are bad. Well, you're making their conditions a lot worse by deciding not to buy from
mhm.
Okay, Armin,
them.
you've got 10 minutes left. Cat Lady, is your microphone able? Are you able to get back on? Okay, next we have Jeremy.
Hi everyone, how are you? Just if I can, some quick comments before I get to what I wanted to say on some things. First of all, talking about propaganda and lies, I think I can't remember exactly, but I think part of that was what Enat Wolf describes really well as placard propaganda. It's got nothing to do with logic or reasoning. It's just make a list of all the good things, make a list of all the bad things, associate all the good things with like the Palestinian or IRGC, and all the bad things with the Iranian protesters or Israel. So and then you just repeat that. It's anyway. It's the other thing was about democracy. I mean it's might be the best system, but I think that don't overrate it too much. It doesn't work that well. And I think all political systems, someone said, degenerate to aristocracy eventually. I think the West is going a lot that way, especially in politics. A lot of people are bad, and that's why nothing works. It's because most people are assholes and are corrupt and power hungry. The other thing I just wanted to point out, I don't know if you discussed this already, but I think that's a really big thing that the second aircraft carrier is coming in. I didn't think there was any chance America was going to do anything offensive with only one aircraft carrier. There's a saying, if you've only got one, you've got none. You need two. So I think that's a really good sign that there's a second one coming. There may be a chance that America will do something. The thing I wanted to talk about was eventually a question for Amin. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of non-Iranians talk about Iran and what should happen if the regime falls and if it's a good thing or bad thing. And most of them really don't seem to know much because they're not Iranians. But I was listening to someone and he pointed out that
You got disconnected. Jeremy, is he getting choppy for me or choppy for other people as well? Okay, you're
Can't hear
getting
anything.
choppy, Jeremy.
critiques for thousands.
Jeremy, you
Sorry?
got choppy. Go back for 10 seconds and say it again. And please, if you can say it really fast. Jeremy?
Okay, because we're in a time constraint, we only have 9 minutes left and a few people on the list. So I'm going to go ahead and read Cat Lady's question.
Wait, can I respond to the democracy thing really quickly? I don't agree with the idea that all democracies will lead to autocracy, and that like, I mean, guys, look at the world; it's getting so much better so fast because of these classical liberal values. Like, I don't know why people are saying, Samantha, you could thumbs this down, but this is like empirical evidence that the world is so much better in the past 150 years. We have made more progress than the past 12,000 years. Like, with every metric when it comes to well being, health, education, access to clean water, child mortality, just 150 years. Half of the mothers out there, well, no, all mothers
I
would have
agree,
to
actually.
bear. Hold on. Yeah, okay. This shows that the world is getting better. Mothers would have to bury half of their children before age 5. Mothers cannot imagine that pain right now today. But every mother had to go through burying half of their children before age 5. Can you imagine mothers going through that today? People today live higher, better lifestyles than Marie Antoinette. She was the
Yeah.
richest woman at her time. She couldn't even change the temperature of her room. When she had to pull her teeth, she had to go through so much pain for entertainment. She had to watch that boring ass theater. Average kid today has access to Xbox that is more entertainment in 5 minutes than she experienced in 5 years. Right? Look at the food diversity that the average person has access to. Today, you can eat sushi. Tomorrow, you can eat kebab. Marie Antoinette could not even dream that much food diversity. And nobody was as rich as her until her time. So the world, like, these values are working. The world is getting so much better, and it's because of democracy, it's because of classical liberal values, and these are working. And no, they don't lead to autocracy. As long as the private sector and individuals keep getting richer and more prosperous, that's a check on the power of governments. And when you say politicians are corrupt and power hungry, I mean, not all of them are corrupt, and I hope they're power hungry. I don't know why power hungry is a negative. I want my politicians to be power hungry. I want them to be motivated to keep working. That's their motivation to keep performing better. So they should be power hungry, but I don't want them to be corrupt. And not, no, not all of them are corrupt.